So I want to make a video on the lessons that I've learned from playing video games. And, a lot of people have this assumption that video games are a waste of time, that they don't teach you anything, that is just mind-numbing, it's just a mind-numbing activity. These are all like the little stereotypes of like gamers, like that gamers are losers, that gamers are like unsuccessful, that gamers are nerds, that they're antisocial. There's a lot of stereotypes behind games, but I think it's starting to change now. I think people are starting to realize the fun behind playing video games, and also not only the fun, but the benefits that you get from playing video games. So let me talk about it. So number one, what video games have taught me is patience. When you play like RPG games, you have to level up your character. It takes time to level up, right? It can sometimes take hours or days or weeks to level up your character in order to kill a boss, in order to finally wear a piece of armor or a weapon that you weren't of a high enough level to wield, but now you can. And once you are able to achieve it, it's a very good feeling of accomplishment, because you put in the time and the effort to get that item. And sometimes when you play certain video games, and everyone who knows about Dark Souls or Lies of P, or old school RuneScape, or any like MMORPG game, you know about the grind. You know that you have to time your attacks, especially in Souls-like games. You gotta time your blocks effectively. You gotta time the parry effectively in order to not die, and in order to damage the boss. You have to sometimes memorize the boss's attack patterns. And it can be very frustrating at times. You'll be dying 1,000 times from a boss, but then that 1,001st attempt, you're able to defeat him, and it's such a great accomplishment because you understood the patterns, you understood when to press the button. So what that does, it teaches you patience, and it also teaches you motor function. It teaches you when to press the right button at the right time, right? It teaches you reflexes. It teaches you hand-eye coordination. These are important skills that one must have in real life. You need to have good hand-eye coordination. You need to have patience in order to be successful in life, in order to win in life. So video games are kind of similar to that. And another thing that video games have taught me is appreciation for beauty. Appreciation for nature and the little details. When you play video games that have a very rich storyline, for example, Halo, or Days Gone, the zombie video game, they all have a very rich and deep storyline, and you get attached to the characters. It's like you're playing it's like you're watching a movie, but you're actually watching an interactive movie. God of War is the same thing as well. When you're playing these games, you get immersed with the characters. You get emotionally attached to the characters. You feel all these emotions, and you really get excited to progress through the storyline, because the storyline is so well written. And you really start to appreciate the character design. You start to appreciate the graphics. You start to appreciate the little details. And not just in those games that have a lot of detail is like Assassin's Creed Origins. It's set in Egypt. Everyone who has played that game, they know how much detail has been put into that video game. You can see the workers transferring the blocks, right, to the pyramids. And that's something that you only are able to access if you just put your controller down and you're in a town or a village, and you just begin to notice the little details. It's the same thing with like other open world games, like Grand Theft Auto. There's a lot of details, a lot of like the NPC characters have their own little shit going on in their lives, and you can notice that. Everyone's going throughout their daily lives, and there's so much detail has been put into it, and you start to appreciate it. You start to appreciate the details of nature in video games. You know, you can see when you're walking through a grassy field, the grass is starting to bend as you're walking. When you jump into a lake or a river, your character is wet. When you're walking through snow in a video game, for example, Red Dead Redemption, you can see your footsteps. Those are all amazing details. And then when you actually go out in real life, you might start to appreciate nature more. You might start to appreciate things more, you know? That's at least what happened to me. Another thing that video games have taught me, specifically games that have to do with like trading and buying items and stuff like that, is economics. A game called Old School RuneScape, if you know it, you know it, has taught me a lot about how supply and demand works. There is something called a grand exchange, where you're able to buy and sell items at a certain price, and the prices of these items fluctuate depending on the demand. And it's just like the stock market. You know, you can do day trading with items online, right? Digital items in that game, and you can make a lot of money, or you can lose a lot of money. Digital currency, not real money. But you know, games have taught me that about the economy, how supply and demand works. And a lot of video games have a lot of history into it. An example is Neo 2. If you never heard of Neo 2, you gotta search that up. It's set in the Sengoku period of Japan, about samurais. You learn about folklore, about monsters called yokai. You learn about the Japanese folklore. You learn about warriors and famous samurais that were back in the past of Japan, like Oda Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, Tokugawa, Tokushiro. Yes, you learn about all of these, and there's so much detail behind the history. Despite it being a video game, despite it's not a real thing, there's still a lot of factual information. And this is not just one video game that has it. Many other games also have a lot of history. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, set in Greek history, right, has a lot of things that you can learn about. You know, Assassin's Creed Origins as well. But there are many video games that the developers have put in history where you're able to learn about what it was like during that time period. So no, video games are not a waste of time. If you play with it in moderation, you can actually gain a lot of benefit from it. Another thing that video games have also taught me is effective communication. When you're playing online video games, right, that require teamwork, in order to win, in order to get to the objective, you need to be able to communicate well with other people. You have to kind of tell them where the enemy is. You have to tell them what you're doing in order to win. You have to have effective team strategy. A lot of first-person shooters are like this. You know, a lot of real-time strategy games are like this. Even a lot of MMORPG games are like this. You have to be able to communicate well with your teammates. And that has translated into my real life as well for me, where I'm able to communicate well with other people when I'm working with team-based tasks at my job. Maybe I've always had that teamwork skill and it kind of got transferred into the video game world, but I do feel like I do owe video games a lot for my communication skills. And the thing is, video games have a lot of detail, a lot of things that you can learn from it. So, you know, and everyone can learn things differently from it. You know, everyone has different lessons that they can learn from video games. Everyone has a reason why they play games. Some people play games to waste time. Some people play games to escape from reality. Some people play video games, you know, just because it's just because they're very in tune with the story. They're very attached to the characters. It's just their genre of play. Some people play video games just to make money. They don't play it for pleasure. They play it because they want to go on Twitch or they want to go online and make some form of side income. You know? Everyone has a different reason. But the point is that there's now in today's world, the video game industry has changed a lot, right? It's changed a lot in a good way, and it's changed a lot in a bad way. Looking at the bad points, video games have become way more expensive than how they were 5, 10, 15 years ago. Video games are extremely expensive. A lot of video games now have microtransactions where you got to pay to win, or you have like these subscription fees for, you know, for different sets or of weapons and stuff that you can buy. You know, unfortunately, that's just how it's become. But on the good side, I feel like a lot of video games have improved their gameplay. Graphically, the video games have improved significantly. You know, stuff like that. And a lot of video games have become beginner friendly for people who have never played an RPG before. For people who have never played a racing game or a sports game. I feel like it's become more beginner friendly for first timers. But yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to talk about, man. Don't think that video games are a waste of time. And you're never too old to play a game. You know, you're never too old for that. You know. Anyways, thank you.